Thanks for the introduction. And on behalf of all of the speakers this week, I really want to express our heartfelt thanks to the Department of Religion and to all of the people who have made it possible for us to be here today. But most of all, to you in the audience who have inspired us by your presence here each afternoon and humbled us with your attention to our words and challenged us with your difficult questions and comments. It's really been a privilege to be part of the Chautauqua community, and it's been a great pleasure for me right up to this moment. This week at Chautauqua, our minds have been expanded by NASA scientists seeing across the vast immensity of space and by following the 14 billion year journey of the universe, from the Big Bang through the fusion reaction of stars, the coalescing of matter into planets, the spontaneous self-organization of matter into recognizable patterns, generating ever more complex forms, from hydrogen to helium to carbon, silicon, inorganic compounds, simple molecules, long-chained molecules, RNA, DNA, life, consciousness, language, culture, Moby Dick. Today, I want to reflect on this story from the perspective of Daoism, which is China's indigenous organized religion. And first of all, I'd like you to think of this story of cosmic evolution not so much as a linear narrative, a straightforward story that goes from A to B to C to D to E, but as a kind of pattern that keeps on repeating itself. If you know anything about fractals in mathematics, think of a Mandelbrot set, which is a self-similar or recursive equation which can be visually represented like an image where you zoom in on any part of the image and the pattern unfolds again in newer and ever richer details. Or if you like, think of those Russian dolls where you open one and inside there's another one, and inside that one there's another one. But in this case, there's an infinite number of them, so that you eventually realize that the dolls themselves aren't what's important. What's really amazing is the continuous opening up of one thing into yet another thing. There's a patterning here, and the nature of the patterning is that it produces more patterning, which produces more patterning, and so on forever. And then you realize that what's going on in the universe is not a simple collection of objects with the sky up there, a tree here, a lake to my right, a building to my left, but rather everything that there is, the vast diversity of all the things in the universe, are dolls within dolls within dolls. Whether you look with your microscope at the tiniest cell, or you stare out with your telescope at the most distant star, you see the same spontaneous process of patterning. Whether you look back in time to the Big Bang itself, or listen out for the first cry of a newborn child, it's the same spontaneous process of patterning. In each case, a new pattern, a unique pattern, but what underlies everything is this continuous cosmic process of emergence of pattern. In the Chinese tradition of Daoism, which I study, this constantly evolving push towards a pattern is called the way. The Tao Te Ching says, we don't know its name, but we can call it Tao, way, patterning, the flaring forth of cosmic creativity. It didn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, it simply is the mysterious emergence of complexity, change, transformation, life. And no matter where you are in the universe, and no matter what time you're in, and no matter what scale of the universe you inhabit, you can see that same process, that patterning, that life, that way. The Tao Te Ching says humans follow from the earth. The earth follows from the heavens follow from the way, and the way follows from itself. When you get down to it, when you look inside those Russian dolls, eventually you come to the realization that underlying everything is way, patterning, the vectoring that gives the world form rather than chaos, being rather than non-being, pattern rather than entropy. And out of this cosmology developed a very profound but simple insight that I want to share with you today. I first came across this insight as a repeated refrain in a medieval Chinese text that I was translating into English for my doctoral dissertation many years ago. I've come to think that it was really the Daoists who developed this way of seeing the world, though there may be analogues to this in other religious traditions. But I hope that what you take away from my talk today is this particular insight. And I want you to think about it and see how it might fit in to your own way of seeing the world. So here is this insight. Nei wai ru yi. Repeat after me. Nei wai ru yi. Once more with feeling. Nei wai ru yi. It's amazing, your Chinese is impeccable. Who knew you come to Chautauqua and you learn to read out classical Chinese? That's an amazing achievement. Please give yourselves a round of applause. You did very well. Some of you might be wondering what this means. It's very simple. Nei, inside. Wai, outside. Ru, like. Yi, one. Inside, outside. Like, one. There is no ultimate difference between what is outside your bodies and what is inside your bodies. There is no ultimate difference between what is outside your bodies and what is inside your bodies. In order to illustrate this insight, I'd like to read for you a few lines from a Taoist text called the Scripture on Inner Observation. And it goes like this: heaven and earth mingle their essences, yin and yang engage in interchange. In this way, myriad beings come to life. Each receives a particular life, yet all are alike in that they participate in the life-giving way. And what this basically means is that although each individual life is unique in its own individuality, yet at the same time, each individual life is similar to all other life forms, not by its appearance, but in that it follows the same pattern of interaction of heaven and earth, yang and yin. To exist, to have life, is to be informed, infused, or indwelt by the fundamental patterns of the cosmos. The scripture continues, when a father and mother unite in harmony, a human receives life. In the first month, essence and blood coagulate in the womb. In the second month, the embryo begins to take shape. In the third month, the yang spirit arouses the yang souls to come to life. In the fourth month, the yin energy settles the yin souls to guard the body. In the fifth month, the 5 elements of the cosmos are distributed to the 5 organs in the body to keep their spirits at peace. In the 6th month, the 6 cosmic sounds are set up in the 6 layers of intestines, nourishing the energy of the body. In the 7th month, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper shine upon the body's orifices to let light in. In the 8th month, 8 heavenly lights descend with their true vital energy. In the 9th month, palaces and chambers are arranged in the body to keep your life safe. And in the 10th month, the energy is strong enough to become a complete life form. This passage describes the gestation of a fetus as an act of infusion or indwelling of cosmic powers over 10 lunar months. Yin, yang, stars, elements, the cosmic sounds come down to infuse the fetus to produce one particular unique individual. Now, when your parents were conceiving you, they might not have realized the truly cosmic implications of what they were doing. But let me tell you, it was a big bang. The fundamental moral challenge for human beings is to truly internalize the fact that although we are unique individuals, we live in a context, a family, an institution, an environment, a universe, and even more than this, to realize that those contexts inhabit us. One of the major visual triumphs of the Journey of the Universe film is that it gives us the sense that the cosmos is not just something that exists outside our bodies, but is rather something that informs or dwells within us. By visualizing the patterns of the stars, the earth and the body flowing into each other, superimposed upon each other, and drawing on the same fractal-like patterns, we begin to develop a visual sense of the heavens, the earth, and our bodies as equal participants in this pattern of cosmic creativity. From a Taoist perspective, the outer space of the heavens and the inner space of the body share the same creative process. Nei wai ru yi, inner, outer, like one. No ultimate difference between outer space and inner space. But this experience, or this idea of the outside somehow reflected on the inside, is not a natural insight, by which I mean it's not something that it's part of our default mental apparatus. In fact, in order for human beings to survive in the world, we learned, like cats, to be deeply sensitive and deeply suspicious of changes in our surroundings. And this sensitivity and the fear that came from this kept us alive. The default psychology of the mind makes a strong distinction between self and other, identity and context. By default, we ordinarily perceive the world as something separate from us, which exists outside of our minds and outside of our bodies. So this is our basic ecological problem. It's a problem of perception. We perceive the world as something separate from us that lies beyond the hermetically sealed walls of our bodies. And the spiritual challenge is for us to learn to see differently. In fact, Taoists developed a vast range of meditation practices aimed at changing the way they perceived and experienced the world in their own bodies. And they did so through images, visualizations, maps. These practices aim to orient the perceptions of the viewer, like the way that a map helps us to make sense of our surroundings and orient us on a journey. The Taoists that I study used this visual meditation to help them realize how their bodies were pervaded by a vast constellation of cosmic powers. The scripture on inner observation, which I just quoted from, is one of these visualization texts. Its goal seems to have been to enable the practitioner to understand, grasp, and fully realize the cosmic nature of his own body. And what I think we can learn from these Taoists is that we need new and better visions of how our bodies and their contexts are immersed in each other. We need to evolve our perceptions, not to help us survive the dangers of the world, but to help the world survive the dangers of humanity. The Journey of the Universe film is not only a narration of the history of cosmic evolution, but it's also a kind of visual meditation that seeks to reshape the viewer's sense of themselves and their perception of the environment and of outer space and deep time. Just as those Taoists imagined the stars and the gods gestating in the fetuses, so also the Journey of the Universe visually represents the vast panoply of the cosmos insistently pulsating within the beating heart of the viewer. These powerful images are deeply transgressive of our normal perception of the world, but they're necessary to help us reorient ourselves reorient our sense of the world living within us. Nei wai ru yi, inside, outside, like one. Thank you.